afternoon, everyone. Welcome. This is our final Face2Face 2024 virtual session. We're so happy to have you here. It went by so quickly, but I hope that you're joining us in person next week. This session is Harmony in Numbers, Collaborative Budget Management. My name is Kinsey Keck. I use she, her pronouns. I am a white woman with brown hair that goes just a little bit past my shoulders. I'm wearing some large round wire-framed glasses, a black t-shirt, and a cozy maroon cardigan. And my background is blurred. I am also the programs director here at the New York City Arts and Education Roundtable. For those who don't know, the Roundtable is a grassroots service organization that works to improve and advance the state of arts education through professional development, workshops, advocacy, and online resources and platforms to connect us all in the arts ed field. Although we are currently meeting via an online platform, the Roundtable would like to acknowledge that we work and live on unceded lands. Mannahatta, or the place that is widely known as New York City, exists on the contemporary and ancestral homelands of the Canarsie, Munsee Lenape, and Wappinger people. These sovereign nations and communities are still thriving here, and we continue to occupy their lands. So we would like to give a moment of respect to them, as well as to the Black and immigrant communities, which have helped build the city that we know today. As we recognize that all of our past, presents, and futures are intertwined, we're again going to uplift a handful of contemporary Indigenous arts organizations that we can all support and learn from. I just realized I don't have those links at my fingertips, so I'll put them in just a moment after we get through the slide. But I encourage you to do some research in your own area, find some arts organizations that you can support, and I welcome you to share ones that you know of to put in the chat as well. Thanks, everyone. I also must acknowledge our fabulous Face2Face 2024 sponsors, without whom this conference would not be possible. So we're so grateful to them all, specifically to these two that you see on your screen who are bringing you this session today. So a big thank you to 92NY's Dance Education Laboratory Program, also known as DEL. And also a big thanks to Volunteer Lawyers for the Arts here in New York. And you can learn more about those organizations on the sponsor tab of the Face2Face 2024 website. Alrighty, just a couple more reminders. So if you're having any trouble with Zoom, I'm here to help. You can just send me a direct message. My name's Kinsey. Please do remember to keep your mic setting on mute unless you're the person speaking, so we can all hear each other clearly. Just dropping those links that I mentioned in the chat now. We do encourage you to use the chat to share questions, connect with other folks on the call. I'll be watching the chat and collecting questions, and hopefully we'll have some time to answer them all for you. This meeting does include live ASL interpretation and automated Zoom captions as well. So if you'd like to turn on captions, just navigate to your toolbar. You'll find a button that says Show Captions either on that toolbar itself or under the More button, and then you can click Show Captions and you'll have them activated. Lastly, this session is being recorded. It will be uploaded to the Roundtable's YouTube page and shared with you all via email from me. As soon as I have all of those things uploaded and resources ready, you'll be getting a resource email from me for the full virtual conference by the end of the conference next week. I think that is it for me. So let me add a spotlight and bring on our two presenters for today that we're so thrilled to welcome. Please join me in welcoming Erika Atkins. Erika is the executive director at Bloomingdale School of Music. And also Kayla Jackmon. And Kayla is the director of finance at Bloomingdale School of Music. It's so great to see you both. Thank you for being here. I'm passing the mic and I'll be here if you need anything.
All right, thank you. First, we will apologize if you hear instruments in the background. We are at a music school and there are lessons happening as we speak right around the corner. So my name is Erika Atkins. As Kinsey mentioned, I am the executive director of the Bloomingdale School of Music. I go by she, her pronoun. I have brown skin, big brown eyes, long multicolored hair, and I'm wearing a blue shirt.
And hello, my name is Kayla Jackmon. I am, my pronouns are she, her. I'm the director of finance at the Bloomingdale School of Music. I have light brown skin, curly brown and black hair, and I'm wearing a black mock neck shirt with a gold necklace. And we are both sitting next to each other in the same office.
Okay, all right, let's go ahead and get started.
Lovely.
Oh, wow, you really did a lot of information in here. Sorry, she warned me about this beforehand. All right, so first I'm gonna do a little introduction to Bloomingdale and the capacity building work that we've done. So Bloomingdale is a community music school located on the Upper West Side of Manhattan. We've been here for 60 years. Our mission is to provide open access to high quality music education to anyone who seeks it, regardless of economic status, ability level, ethnicity, or religious affiliation. So as I mentioned, we're on the Upper West Side. Our core community stretches from West 86th Street to West 125th Street, from Central Park to the Hudson River, while our signature scholarship program draws students from all of the boroughs across New York City. Our students come from areas as close as next door and as far as Brooklyn and the Bronx. Additionally, with online programming, we've been able to extend our reach as far as upstate New York and Japan. Our families, they form a network helping their loved ones get to and from lessons, encouraging regular practice, attending our community concerts, most of which are free, and enjoying their own musical experience through Bloomingdale. So, as we said at the top, we have done a lot of capacity building work, which includes our finance structure. So we want to walk through that real quick before Kayla gives like a more in-depth of the finance part specifically. So in the fall of 2022, we began our 5-year strategic plan, which we call Roadmap 2027, which is about where do we want to be in 2027. For the first year of the plan, which was last year, we had a focus on capacity building. So what that meant for us is that we expanded the finance, HR, and operation team, and this allowed for many of our staff members to focus more on programming, outreach, and family support. And for finance, this onboarding allowed the leadership to better communicate and collaborate with the board of directors around financial decisions. We evolved budgeting practices to empower staff members to collaborate and give feedback around their program budgets. We brought in outside consultant to support our capacity building work, which was a bit of a challenge. It did shift some timeline, including the annual audit, but we did also some of it was like a little bit out of outside of our control, but we were able to complete that in the formation of the FY24 budget. And then in that first year, the leadership team completed the 6-month Prosperity Collective RevGen Fuel Series, creating 3 high-level strategic priorities and action steps to align our revenue generation to Roadmap 2027. And last, we did a nonprofit New York learning cohort where we defined our short, medium, and long-term goals, what they are around finances. And the plan component that we have, just a bigger picture, is that it included looking at how we want to make our work more inclusive, how we want to adapt our work to today's students and community, and how we want to expand to reach more students. And in that area, we're looking at who we want to reach, and defining who we want to reach. What programming are we making for those people? Do we already have it? Do we need to develop? Do we need to better connect it? Do we have the capacity to support what we're doing? And if we don't, perhaps we need to scale back the programming. Do we have the space? We do have our own 5-story brownstone, but it is not ADA compliant. So do we have the space to serve the people we want to? And how are we connecting internally and externally? And this year, we're really looking at deepening impact and strengthening connections. If we did a lot of capacity building work. And one of the reasons why we wanted to share all of this with you is obviously we had a lot of resources to help us build this, but majority of this was free. So there are a lot of free resources out there for nonprofit to better build their systems. And there are some funders who do want to support it. So we want to outline a little bit about how we got here and how we got those resources to get there. So when we went into the nonprofit New York learning cohort, the challenge that the group selected, we were in there with several other nonprofits, was how do we leverage best practices in internal and external communications in order to meet our mission and long-term strategic goals. So we adjusted the statement a bit because I was like, oh, I picked my director of finance to do this with me though. So not my director of marketing and development. So how do we make this more applicable to what we wanted to get out of this? So we adjusted the statement for us. How do internal communications support the work we want to do around building sustainable fiscal practices? And what tools and systems need to be built to allow us to communicate our financial position externally? Because internal communications is just as important as external. The goals that we laid out, a short-term goal was onboarding everyone on staff in order to understand, manage, and talk about our budget, which we know is a challenge for small to medium-sized organizations. Our medium-term goal, which is where we are right now, was finalizing the tools that will allow us to get the info we need, and that's leadership, finance, and program coordinators and managers. And having processes for long-term goal by December 2025 is having processes in which the entire leadership could be able to use the budget to do what they need to do and to be able to communicate strategy, update with their internal team and external partners. I know it sounds like a no-brainer, but I think everybody in this space knows it can actually be pretty hard to get there. Great. So now that we've had the opportunity to talk a little bit about ourselves, we do want to find out more about who's in the room. Those of you who know Minty might already be on it, but if you can go, you can either scan the code that's up here, or you can go to minty.com and put in this room code. I'm going to switch screens, but you're still going to be able to see the room code. All right. Hopefully you're all able to see. If you can't, put in the chat if you're having issues. So starting to look at who's in the room right now. We have some program administrators, people who are members of their leadership team, operations, HR, finance administrator, another member of leadership, other. If you are the other, could you drop in the chat what you are? We're just curious. We're teaching artists, two teaching artists.
All right.
Teaching artists who like budget. We like to see that. We are teaching artists who like budget. That's where we started. So we love to hear this. I said consultant. Thank you, Amy.
Thank you, Amy. I am also curious for those teaching artists, no need to call yourself out. We have Joy says, I am a TA, not sure if I'm on the list. Okay, Joy, welcome. I am curious as a teaching artist, if you're here in this space, did you attend yesterday's session with Face2Face about the transition from teaching artist to arts administrator? Just curious.
I'm a former TA, now working in admin. Carrie, yes, she attended yesterday.
Lovely.
I am a teaching artist. Joy wanted to attend, but she was working at 2 other jobs
Joy.
because she's a teaching artist.
That's correct.
Yeah. Great. So it looks like in this space currently, I hope everybody got an opportunity to vote, just still a little bit more time as I speak slowly. We have mostly program administrators in this room. But behind that, we have 5 people who are in leadership on their team.
Thank you. Yeah, we've got a couple folks in the chat. Elizabeth, I'm seeing that your code didn't work. Do you mind just dropping into the chat what role fits you the best?
Listen.
Yeah.
A
Couple more leadership in the chat.
couple more leadership in the chat. Other operations, HR, finance administrator.
This is helpful to know. Thank you for
Okay,
doing this.
okay. I
Great.
do want, I can click this and put this in the chat too. So if the code didn't work, this might work.
Neat.
Let me know.
That's cool. Okay, some things have shifted.
Oh, more people are in.
Okay. Great. There was a
Uh,
typo above, I
okay.
think. Okay,
All
great.
right, we're getting some more people in. More teaching artists,
A lot of administrators.
a lot of administrators. Yeah. Cool. Cool.
Thank you all.
Thank you all. All right. We're going to shift to the next slide.
All right. Thank you, administrators,
Thank
for
you.
being here.
Guys want to learn about budget. Okay.
Let's do it.
All right. What is a finance-related problem challenge you and or your organization is currently facing? So you can take a second, type that in. We just want to see what people in the room are facing, and think about that as we're sharing out tools and tips today.
And again, if you are leadership, I'm sure you have some pretty large things that you already know that you're facing, and it should be easy for you to come up with at least 20. But if you also are not in leadership or not an arts administrator, I'm also curious what challenge you personally are facing in finance as well that may relate to your work as a teaching artist.
So some people are facing issues with budget cuts. And one of the things I'll say about what we're talking about today, it's about being able to track and understand your budget to a place where you could better inform or make decisions, because we've had to deal with some of that stuff too. And the way that we track our budget makes it easier for us to anticipate, problem solve,
Yes.
reproject, because it's just like really detailed, and to share that out with the team. Getting people to give me the budget codes in time for reconciliation. People who've done receipts. I want to make a musical called Where Are Your Receipts?
Send me the codes.
Yeah, I will. Teaching artists not understanding the organization finance as a whole.
I'm going to pause on that one. Whoever wrote that one, this session is a little bit more geared towards that. So I'm excited for you to be able to see that. We're going to definitely address that one here.
Not consistently tracking expenses in kind donation work means we don't have a realistic programming budget. Difficult to get larger donors outside of foundation support. We have experience with that too. And again, when we talk about the template, one of the reasons why we built the template that we did is it because it makes it easier to show gaps and challenges and places where funders could like jump in because you see these are the expenses and is anybody funding it or not? Like that's the structure of our budget. And so it helps with that. I see Joy in the chat, fluctuating amount of work.
Oh, that's frustrating, Joy.
Yeah. More comment about deficit not being able to meet fundraising goals, not being able to meet fundraising goals, which is a very, very common experience in this year in particular, and arts education in this particular, yeah.
The no idea one, the no idea what our budget is for visual and performing arts department. Can I be told this as a teacher?
Yeah.
Yes, you can.
Well, we can't speak for the organization.
You're right.
I can't.
There's a way.
If somebody's tracking their budget in a way, they could tell you, yes.
And if they have capacity.
Yeah.
Yes.
Big anniversaries, no budget to celebrate them. Not enough income to make board okay with staff TA raises.
Yeah.
Pretty common. Fluctuating amount of work. Local school partners do not have funding. Yeah, because the budget cuts are also
Affecting that.
okay. Right. Thank you, everybody, for sharing them. And we hope that even for those who are most concerned about budget cuts, we'll be able to take something away from how we're communicating and structuring it. Because I feel like part of what's so scary about budget cut is then also if you don't necessarily have the best system to track or understand it, it becomes even scarier.
And I would also venture to say, if you feel alone in needing to decide, or you feel like you're the only one who holds the answers to moving forward, I'm hoping that this presentation will allow you to collaborate with other people on your team to brainstorm new ways to move forward, as opposed to just one person having all those answers.
Yeah, because the one person who has all the answers also doesn't want to probably not be the one person who has all the answers. Speaking from personal experience, it's better to be able to collaborate with your team and all their resources. Okay. The next question is what? Oh, that's a typo. That's fine. What drains you personally about finances?
Yeah, let's get personal.
As personal as you are comfortable.
You're right.
Getting.
And why do we ask this, Erika? I feel like we're asking this question to ensure that whatever I'm presenting, if it doesn't necessarily apply to you and your organization, I kind of want to get a good idea of like, maybe there's some formulas in here, some tools that we're taking from our model that might be helpful for you to be able to share out with your partner, the people that are in your lives, or just the way in which you budget personally. Maybe there's a way something that you can take from this. So I'm curious to see.
What are you reacting to?
Spreadsheets.
But they're saying they don't like spreadsheets.
I know.
Oh, you're gonna make them love spreadsheets?
That's my goal today.
Okay, great. If anyone can make you love spreadsheets, it's this one right here. So people have also mentioned the need to budget using educated assumption while also being asked for minute detail.
Or minute, yeah.
Minute details, which is a big reason why we have the structure we do. Time consuming processes to get actuals, etc. Simply not having enough. Talk about spreadsheets. Fear, anxiety, the emotional toll. For sure. Starting to engage with the DOE and waiting
for the money.
It comes when it comes. That's the DOE's model.
Our auditor this year was like, "Are you gonna get it?" And I was like,
"Yeah,
it's coming."
Till we get it. Imposter syndrome. Do not like numbers. I think we can make numbers a little exciting.
With colors.
With colors.
And charts.
Yeah.
Get ready.
Translating complex financial information, ooh, for people who do not want to know the truth.
Thank you for your honesty. You are not wrong.
Mhm.
I hear
Mhm.
that.
Yeah.
It's in my spirit.
Mhm. Okay, all right, I'm gonna go to the next
Yeah, that's
slide.
lovely. Thank you for sharing.
And this is just someone doing a test. Whoever it is, we see you.
There's one more that popped up.
Okay, pay rates that are not equal to a minimum living wage for NYC, but wanting to continue to working in this field. Yeah, that's a,
Every day.
she's been a couple of times, but it won't go through. Thank you, Yvonne. Yeah, that's definitely just a hard one to wrangle with, and also I think is connected to what everybody was talking about, stresses them out in the
Yep.
last slide, like the bigger funding structure of New York City.
Yep. Yep.
And nonprofits in general.
Yep.
Yeah. But it's also our hope, going back to what we're doing today, that we, through the work that we're doing, then we're also trying to get better at this organization about pay structures, and we built tools to help us better understand what is the impact, what can we sustain, what are the different projections, like, again, through our tools, being able to better understand that. So at least for us as an organization, our first reaction is, we can't do that.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, well, what can we do? And using our tools to better understand that.
Lovely.
Okay. So relating to all the answers, it feels good to be in like company.
Mhm.
Mm,
Amen.
same.
All right, last question.
And what are you most excited about for this workshop today? Harmony in numbers.
Subtitle: Collaborative Budget Management.
While people are answering, you know what we didn't say before when we were introducing ourselves,
Mhm.
that we've been working here on budgeting at Bloomingdale for the last 2 years.
Mhm.
But previous to that, we did also work together at Opening Act. And so,
Shout out.
shout out, hey Justin. So the work that we've been doing, we started it at one organization and we carried it over to another, because we, both as former teaching artists and programming people, felt pretty passionate about
Yep.
the like collaborative budgeting experience.
Yeah, I think and before you start reading, thank you for putting your answers in. I think one of the things that I noticed at my last organization is the limitations of that budget structure to be super collaborative and without like a large budget build or a rebuild. So I am curious, as we start working with you all in this group, what does your current budget look like if you have access to it and you're thinking about how to implement some of the tools today? What does like one step forward in being more collaborative look like in your budget?
So things people are excited about, hearing some new ideas. Just happy to be among my people. That's really sweet. Using creativity to bring more collaboration into budgeting, not feeling alone anymore, learning from all of you, learning how we can better include our constituents in the process, new ideas for rural population.
Thank you.
Building out the language and examining concrete strategies to start the work at my org to gain a better understanding of how to get the most out of the budget you have.
Great.
Figuring out how to see a budget as something that can be flexible and constantly in motion, rather than something that is concrete and unmovable. It is, it's in motion all the time, all the time. Learning language to help translate numbers in a way that non-numbers people can understand.
Yes.
Understand company finances behind pay scale, perhaps for use in transitioning out of TA and admin. We won't be talking about that a lot today, but I do just want to note that. Yeah, I just want to note that, but
Mhm.
because I feel like it's so different for every organization, what ultimately informed the teaching artist pay scale. So I just want to, yeah.
And if we have time, we can share out some of the tools that you can have to kind of compare your organization to others. There's some compensation reports that come out every year. I'm hoping that you know about that, but if not, we can share that as well.
Yeah, tool to better support my team when managing budget, which had been a struggle, giving teaching artists the opportunity to weigh in on budgeting decision, regardless of their knowledge capacity to be a part of the financial decision making.
Love that.
Yeah, I think again, I don't know what we're talking about today. We'll get into that as much, but
Yeah,
I think managers may be able to take some tools away that will allow them to do that.
even that, depending on what access your teaching artist has or how transparent, what I'm about to show you is direct expense only. And I think even with some of our faculty members that are on staff, they're able to kind of see this and start making their own decisions. So
Yeah.
I think.
So this would be a good thing if you are like a manager or someone budgeting and you're hoping to be able to implement this more. There may be some tools in there. Or if you're a teaching artist, you could go to your manager and say, hey, this is something I saw another organization doing. Yeah. And to learn more about collaborative budget. All right, great.
Thank you.
And we'll switch back over.
Oh, no, go like 5 sides. You're gonna go to the next one. The next big
This one,
chunk.
right?
Yeah, that one.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Okay.
love it. Okay, so I'm gonna start taking over with the presentation portion of this session. And I'm gonna walk you through high level, our budget model. And I'm going to walk you through like a medium level of our budget model. And the way I'm going to be doing that is showing you presentations that I have already shown to our staff. Some of our staff who are also faculty members or work with faculty members, what we call teaching artists at this organization. And I'm also going to, I take these presentations and I also have shown them to board members. I've shown them to our treasurer last week, our new incoming board treasurer, for her to get a better idea of the programming in our budget. And I want to start also by saying that the amount of programs inside of our organization is a lot. So if you have an organization that has a smaller number of programs, I'm curious to kind of see what questions you have or what ways that you feel like you can adapt to this. And I also want to start off by saying I am going to go pretty quickly through some of the smaller details. So please write down your questions if you have them as I go through this, because I want to make sure that what I'm hitting is, can you push next? I'm focusing on 2 things in this next section of the presentation, the why and the how. And this is for me as somebody who's sharing information out to others. I'm focusing on why am I sharing this information out, and then how am I sharing it out? So as you're about to walk through this, what you're not going to see is me sifting through spreadsheets. I put everything into PowerPoint presentations first before I go into the spreadsheets with the staff. So there's a reason for why and how, and I'll explain that in the upcoming slides. I also am curious, as I'm going through each slide, if you feel the spirit move you, I am curious what you think, what the why and the how is. So if you want to kind of like get ahead of the curve and see like some double checks, tell me why you think I'm sharing this out and how. Okay, let's start. So the first one I'm doing is our budget overview. Like I said, Bloomingdale has, I think, 27 different programs, and there's different people who have access to different parts of each program. So what I do right here is I start high level bird's eye view. You can click next. We start with our master budget, which we are now calling our organizational budget overview. doesn't ring off the tongue as well, but we start with that, and then everything else links into it. So a lot of the things that I'm about to say are exactly what I say to our staff. Anything that's in yellow is a workbook or a worksheet that links into our big budget, what we share out with our board, how we see if we're in a deficit or not. And anything that's in orange is where entries happen in real time, where somebody on our staff is going in and changing the actuals. Okay? So how am I doing this? How am I sharing this out? I'm sharing it out through a PowerPoint presentation and tons of colors and summarizations. No numbers yet. Next. And why? I realized that this slide is something that I wish I had had when I first walked into this organization. I also realized that I was repeating some of the same information about how everything feeds into other workbooks to our staff multiple times. And I was like, oh, if I just have like one slide, maybe that might solve this issue. And I have realized over time that a lot of people have come back to me to ask for this particular slide. Okay. So we've got 5 ways in which our workbooks feed in. We've got a program department summary, fundraising summary, and I go into detail and talk about each of these. We'll go next. And one more time. I talk about all of the programming budgets and how they feed into the summary of our programs. So these are all of the smaller parts of our budget. Each one of those orange ones is a separate workbook. So when we're talking about collaboration, I'm able to send one workbook for the summer budget to the person who controls the summer budget. They look at that and only that. Then we go to fundraising, same thing. We've got 5 different fundraising campaigns or events that we like to focus on, and each one of those is a separate workbook. And again, they're all flowing into the yellow one. And if you want to talk about spreadsheets and formulas, we can get into the nitty-gritty of that if we have time, but it's all through something called import range. If you are not familiar with import range, write that down and Google it. Do some YouTube videos. That's kind of going to be your friend as you think about collaboration and wanting to only share certain things with certain people so that they don't get overwhelmed. All right. Let's move to the next slide. Oh yeah, just kidding. There's one more thing. I put a little section here that's our marketing budget, and I tell them we realized that we have a marketing team who needed to know what they had to spend on marketing for all of these programs and events. So we put that in response to staff feedback, we pulled the marketing budget out of each of these smaller ones. So our marketing team didn't have to go into each workbook. So that right there is me collaborating with my staff, hearing their feedback and changing it in our build for the next fiscal year. Okay. All right, this one is a bit more detail. What I'm doing, can you push the back button real quick? What I'm doing is I'm taking the programs budgets right here, all of this, and if I'm talking to a program staff member, this is where I tell them, hey, this is where you live in the larger scope of the programs world. So I start large and now I'm going a little smaller. Okay, next. All right, click 7 times. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So these are the 7, thank you. These are the 7 different ways, or the 7 different like sections of the program's budget. So I also, as you can see in the how, I am literally starting with like high level. Before I get into the detail and overwhelm them with numbers, I just show them these 7. Okay, click next. Now I'm just showing one program section at a time. And then I'm also, depending on the staff member that I'm talking to, I'm telling them where they belong in each of these 7 sections. And if you notice, if you're a finance person, you're noticing that this is my first time showing them numbers. These numbers are the classes. So every time that they're looking at their budget, they're also looking at their number of their class, which will help them with coding later on. When they don't know it, I'm also showing them, hey, your number is one number of so many other numbers. So it's so important that your coding is correct. Like this is the first time I'm like dropping that in for them. Okay, next. This is even more granular. So like I just said with coding. Oh, what's coding? I don't know what that is. What is receipt submission? I don't know what that is. This is my first year. I realized that I was talking to people who are kind of brand new in the workforce and don't necessarily know what that is. So I realized, oh my gosh, I need a slide that explains this for them. For certain staff members, I will skip right past this. They know what this is, but for some people, they need to know what is an account and what is a program. Why do I call it a GL code sometimes? Why do I call it a class sometimes? This is all very, really like the first introduction to somebody who doesn't know what coding is. Okay.
Turned out Thursday is tuba day.
Oh yeah,
So
if you can hear the tuba, that's what's happening. It sounds like, okay. Another thing I'm doing, this is something I'm working on, is I'm trying to show them how their accounts fit into our larger organizational budget. So again, I'm just like slowly integrating numbers and explanations in as I go through the presentation. Next. Then this is the classes. So how does your number, let's say 131 BTP guitar, fit into our budget? Okay, well, 131 is 13, so it goes into program events. Okay, so when I'm looking at our larger budget on a high level, programs, fundraising, or ops, your budget fits inside this section that closes inside programs. So it's just like another way of somebody to kind of get it. One person found this really helpful. Most people found the other way helpful. But again, in terms of collaboration, I'm just trying to figure out how I can get folks to like understand that stuff. Great. Oh, why and how? You can push the next one.
okay, great.
Great. I'm going to skip past this one, but I just want you to know, as I'm sharing this with people, I also give them little assignments just to check in on their understanding. And those little assignments are pretty much things that they're going to do on a day-to-day.
And can I actually go through? Are these the assignments?
Yeah, these are the assignments.
Okay. It's something I do want to say is that I know that it seems like some of you may be like, oh, this is a lot of work. I'll never have time to do this. But I want to push back and encourage a little bit. If you can do some more work on the top, it's going to save you so much more work in the back day to day as you're trying to like get through finances on day to day. You'll be able to move faster because you were able to take the time to integrate people up on the top.
Yes. And I will say in action, this presentation, I just started with the first slide that I showed you. It took me 30 minutes to do while I was watching Parks and Rec. And then like the other ones, I just slowly added on in 5-minute increments right before I needed to, oh, this person doesn't know this. Okay, let me add this really quick, just as a way to talk to them. And now it's become this presentation. So to reiterate what Erika is saying, I didn't do this all at once. I just did it in little chunks, depending on who needed to hear what.
You've done the why and how. Yeah.
I've done the why and how. All right, let's pause. So I'm about to show you the second presentation that I have shared with staff. This one started out with the nonprofit New York presentation that Erika and I worked on what our budget looks like. And now I've just actually started to do this for our staff. So talking about ways in which I build, essentially what I'm about to show you is screenshots of our budget. So in terms of the what, the how, and the why, I'm literally, before we even go into a screenshot or go into the budget, I'm like, hey, this is what you're about to walk into. Don't get scared. This is what you're about to see. Okay. So this is the direct expense budget. This is the way that our model looks. Now we're in the more granular. We are in like their day-to-day budget. I always show them this up front, and then you're going to click 4 times, Erika. I'm showing you the expense entry, the high-level analysis, the cash flow, and the comments. This is how our budget structure looks no matter what program you're in, they can always see it this way. And I'm going to walk through each of these slides one by one. That's what I'll say to them. And then I would go real slow for the next like 10 minutes. I'm not doing that now, so we can get to the next part of our session, but let's continue. Oh, why did I do this and how? Okay, I already explained that. Nonprofit New York, but now I continue doing it because I realize if I start showing somebody a spreadsheet, it doesn't allow them to feel comfortable enough to ask questions about the structure. But this is allowing folks to like feel like they're not too intimidated, to feel like they need to know how it works. They can ask questions here because I'm opening that up for them. Okay. So we go into the expense entry. Again, I'm like kind of giving them a bird's eye view of what we're focusing on. I talk through every single part of our budget. In terms of our model, what we do is we start with name, rate, and quantity, and then the rate and quantity is a multiplication that turns into what our projected is. So if I'm going to show you an example in just a second, but as I'm walking through the build of a budget with a staff member, I'm literally only showing them these 3 columns and I'm literally talking through them. So continue. The first year I did all of the work. I was like, hey, do you have coordinators for this program? How many? How much do we pay them? And I'm just typing it for them. Second year, they have now started entering this. And by the 3rd year, I want them to enter it completely and have me do a double check for approvals. Anything that's in beige in our budget model is what they can edit. So I always tell them that up front. It looks overwhelming, but all you're responsible for is updating the beige cells. So going back to colors, make it colorful, make it so that they know exactly where to go. And I feel like that changed quite a lot from year 1 to year 2. I didn't have account name, rate, and quantity in colors. This year I did, and people are like, great, I know where to go. Can we focus? And then they'll start leading the conversations because they feel a little bit more empowered. I know it seems remedial, but it's really helping them. All right. Then I'll show them, oh, okay, great. Then I'll show them an example. So next slide. And I'm just walking them through, okay, you've got a coordinator fee. It's detailed entry. You can collapse the accounts in our budget model. So I do grouping with our spreadsheet, which makes people feel like if they want to ignore something for a little bit, they can just group it. Moving forward, I don't delete anything in this budget model so that we can literally for the next year, copy paste. We're literally just doing a copy paste of the same spreadsheet and then entering new info. I show them this because it's allowing them to see the detail before they have to enter their own. Okay, so this is part 1. I'm going to move through the next 3 parts pretty quickly. So Erika, I show them the high level analysis. If you have questions about this, let's come back to that in this portion of the session, but I want to make sure I don't spend too much time like I just did in the first part. All right, so I'm showing them projected approve year to date, what the remaining to earn and spend is. The purple one is in response to what staff have told me. They're like, great, I know what the budget is, but like, how much do I have left to spend? So we literally just added a column that subtracts the projections from what's the year to date. It shows them how much they have left to spend. Okay, moving forward. Now I'm going to show them an example of that. Great. So if you look at the as of at the top, it's now the end of September. Okay, Georgia taught something. So now in the purple, there's nothing left to spend. In our supplies and materials, $80 was spent instead of $100. In our hospitality, $135 was spent. So we're over budget in the approved column by $35. So then I tell them in the next button, what's our analysis? Well, you can see at the very top of our expenses, we're over budget by $15. At the possible next step, we could reduce our receptions for other events in the hospitality line, or we just know that this budget is over budget for a little bit and maybe it'll come under budget somewhere else. Great. Next. Now I show them the cash flow. This is really important for a budget model because what's happening is they're entering the numbers of their budget. All of their actuals are actually happening 1 month at a time. I was using a budget that did the cash flow with the program's budget in real time, and this has saved a lot of time and questions on like how much money do you have in the bank? So if you have a much smaller and less intimidating budget than this, I would highly recommend that you build your cash flow into your budget as opposed to just being like, okay, here's the totals. And we can walk through any of the math or the formulas about this if you have more questions about that, but I would highly encourage you to do this at the very least. Okay, moving forward. Then I also show them an example of the same thing, so we can go to that next slide. And I'm showing them that in the white. So in terms of what I'm doing for them as a staff member, is I'm telling them, hey, once our actuals come in, you're going to see the word actuals at the top, and you're going to see that I changed it from beige to white, so you can't touch it anymore. Then I also have a comment section in terms of our budget model. So much of the work happens in the comment section. And in fact, I continue to encourage them and bring them back to this comment section instead of emails, instead of private conversations, so that they get more and more comfortable like looking at the numbers inside of the budget, as opposed to them coming to me and asking me questions. I'm like, oh, let's go into the budget and answer that right here. Hey, I'm about to put that in here and comment it so you can look at this later. All right.
Yeah, I was gonna say, before we go into the next section, I know some people love numbers and some people may have already run away from their computers
I know.
crying. So could we all, we're gonna do a trust-based model. Can we all just take a deep breath? Breathe out. All right. I hope that was helpful.
Can I say one more thing?
Yes, you may.
What I'm also going to say is I just showed you 2 weeks of information in 20 minutes. So take what you got from that, write down questions that are high level to you right now, something that excited you or something you still want to dig into, and kind of leave the rest behind. I just wanted you to kind of see high level what I show other people.
And you all get a gold star. You get a gold star for getting through 2 weeks of information in 20 minutes. You all and Jared Tuba next door. Jared just got into Juilliard. That's exciting.
Right?
Yeah, he should. Okay.
It's a Juilliard Tuba.
Okay. All right. So where are we right now? What are we doing right now? Looking ahead, we just went over the work we did ahead of time, the mess that we're in right now. We'd like to kind of outline for you all like where we continue to plan ahead with this. So, like we said, short term, which we're wrapping up, is onboarding everyone on staff in order to understand, manage, and talk about our budget. The resources that we've needed have been full leadership engagement with budgeting processes and procedures, including removing the director of finance from day-to-day communication, letting people make more decisions on their own, and financial professional development for the staff. I think that includes both us and the staff as well. Our current next steps are prioritize making sure each department director understands and has access to up-to-date fiscal policies and procedures and budget. Codify budgeting philosophy, strategies, and practices, and complete staff-wide budget onboarding. In the medium term, our goal, which is what we're moving into, is finalizing the tool that will allow us to get the info we need through leadership, finance, and program coordinators and managers. So we're going to take 1 to 2 years to experiment with tools such as link spreadsheets, reports, and expense tracking tools and software, development of a fiscal onboarding process, which you've just seen and will continue to be tweaked, and room to make some big mistakes, but not too big.
But not too big.
Okay. The current next steps This time will come the time will come for less day-to-day communication that the new bookkeeper, we just hired a new bookkeeper this year, will assist with updating the budget, pulling reports, and communicating with staff about the budget. And we're going to analyze the tools, what work well, and adjust. Because some of what we're doing, we may discover a year from now that's still not clicking. So we have to change it again. So we're giving ourselves the flexibility, and we've shared this with our board too. So our board knows that we're also giving ourselves that flexibility. And long term, having processes in which the entire leadership could be able to use the budget to manage their project and program, and to be able to communicate strategy, update with their internal team and external partners. So the resources that we needed and that we still need are increased administrative and operation capacity across the staff to evolve and maintain finance structures, and establish system practices and tools to allow the staff to manage their budget.
Yes.
So those will come over time, and to be totally transparent, we're dealing with some of the budget cuts and fluctuation too. So we continue to move our timeline around the capacity piece,
Yes.
specifically as we understand more about what our budget looks like. The current next steps are to work with the bookkeeper to be fully trained and competent in communication flow between all staff members, supervisors, and leadership, and using tools that work well in the medium-term goal, create accurate visual data for at-a-glance decision-making from the leadership team, so that as we continue to develop these, and we're still developing tools and resources right now to better allow us to understand, for example, how many scholarships do we give in specific areas, and how does that align to how the donation comes in for
Yes.
scholarship? Like, this is something we literally just got the capacity to do, right?
Yes.
And Kayla's been here for almost 2 years. More people had to come on to take more work to allow Kayla to do that. So that's one of the things I want to point out, that I've been here almost 4 years. Some of this started when I first came in with the consultant we brought in, the wonderful Ashley Brown. Some of you may know her, some of you may have worked with her. She's lovely. That she and I started building it, and then Kayla came in. So this is something that is not solved instantaneously.
No.
We've been working on it for almost 4 years now.
And it's all within the structure of an amazing 5-year strategic plan as well. So I say all this to say, like, the little things that I'm working on that feel like they're going to take some time are like, I know that I have a whole year to figure out how to onboard people. And I know that the tools is about another 2 years. So just know that this is what we're showing you is a glimpse into like a 5-year project that we're working on. Great.
Okay. All right, so next we're gonna do choose your own adventure. It's still the same Minty. Hopefully you did not close that out, but just in case, let me repost this again in the chat.
You got it?
Yeah.
Okay.
There we go. Thank you, Kenzie. Choose your own adventure. All right, we have 2 different options right now. We can either do like a quick brainstorming activity, just so you can kind of start to think about the kind of questions that we think about when building a collaborative budget model. And then we'll take about like 10 minutes, 5 to 10 minutes to do a Q&A. Or we can just spend the rest of our time together just taking and answering questions. So
That's what we thought. Great. All right, we only have 2 votes.
we only have 2 votes. So
Okay,
we're gonna watch eagerly and see which one the group picks.
Interesting. Okay.
Okay.
Okay. Interesting.
Okay. All right.
Wow.
Wow. That's hot.
Oh my goodness. Oh,
I know. I feel like though at this point, given like the answer case study.
yeah, that's fair.
Yeah.
I did not anticipate this.
I know. That's hot though. I've been trying to bring back That's Hot, everybody.
I started saying it a couple days ago. Noelle said it yesterday.
I've been trying to make everybody do it. Okay.
17 votes are in.
17 votes, and there are like 20 something people in the room.
Yeah.
So feels like case study is the winner.
I see a
Yeah,
fire
we did a
emoji.
fire emoji on that.
Great.
That's so funny. Great. All right. Then we're gonna do the case study.
Yeah.
All right. But we'll still have time for questions.
Yes. And in fact, let's do a time check. We're at 5 o'clock. We said we had 35 minutes. We're 5 minutes behind. Not bad.
Yeah.
Okay, so we'll do about 20 minutes on this.
Okay,
Or
great.
15.
So you guys are gonna do this individually,
Yes.
and then I'll have you share out a bit. And this, can people come off, like, maybe Kenzie, you could tell us in the chat. People could just like talk if we told them they can talk, right, Kenzie?
Yeah, anyone can come off mute, or if they want to be on camera, I can also spotlight them.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's helpful.
Okay, so you guys are gonna individually do this. All right. So first, what we're gonna do is we're gonna have you guys. I'm gonna give you two different ways that you can do this. You can either do your own team as is. So if you have a team who you're trying to figure out how to implement a collaborative budgeting structure with, you can use that. If you don't, I'm gonna give you an imaginary team that you're in charge of.
Yes.
Thank you, Eve.
Thank you, Eve.
I'm gonna give you an imaginary team to be in charge of that has one ops person, two programming people, and one fundraising person. So either you can do this set of activities thinking of your actual team, or you can use this imaginary team.
Yes.
Cool.
Great.
All right. So here are some questions we'd like you all to think about, jot down, and then we'll talk about and share out. Solid background music from Jared right now. Who on your team needs to know what information?
And there's your team.
How might you consider structuring your budget format? Again, you do not need to write that down right now. This is just like thinking, oh, these are ways that may make sense for us to structure a budget.
So
You can have one big budget. You can have different workbooks like we do. Or maybe there's another option that we haven't thought of that you have in your head. On your team, who do you think needs the most buy-in? Who are you going to have to do the most work with to get them on board with this plan? Is it your ops person? Is it the programming people? Is it the fundraising? Or again, think of your own team.
Last question.
Last question. What are a couple processes, meeting, training, system, policies that this team might be able to use to make sure they will all be on the same page of the budget?
Yes.
We're leaving this up. Should think about it. We'll give you, what, 10 minutes to think? 5 minutes to think. We'll give you 5 minutes to think.
Yes. And now those 5 minutes are starting now. And if you have any questions, Kinsey, I do believe they could come off mute and ask said questions during this time.
Yes.
Lovely.
I mean, we already have background music, so we could just stay off mute.
Just entertain them. Cha-cha. Yeah, let's do 5 minutes. That's starting now. I am curious, as a teaching artist, those of you who are in the room, what what you're taking away from this as well. Like, does it feel like there's a new level of empathy or understanding? Or does it feel like, oh my gosh, I actually want to share this information with my team members? I'm curious about what your headspace is in right now as a teaching artist. This is nuts.
Like the budgeting process is nuts?
Yeah, I
Is
kinda
that
wanna
what the, yeah.
Yeah, if you can come off camera, I'd love
Yes, yes, she said yes.
to.
Carrie wants to share it.
Lovely. And if any of you who are talking in the chat would love to come off, I feel like I am talking into a void. So if you do have anything you want to say, as you're thinking about this, that would be helpful for the group, let me know as well. Feel free to come off. I do also want to know, can you hear the tuba?
Yeah, yeah, Amy. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, he is very good. You're right, Justin. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, sure. Sounds great. Thank you, Jackie. We're gonna have to tell him afterwards.
Yeah.
Like everybody heard it. Okay.
Yeah.
It's okay if you're still writing. I also feel like this is a bit much and probably work better for larger organizations to have segmented tasks. I would say it could be structured on a smaller level for a smaller organization, but I do think even when Open Act was small, there was still a similar process of sharing out. Ours is a lot because we have a lot of like programming budget.
Yeah.
I would say that's true.
Yeah.
But
I would even say, like, for another organization I worked for, where I think there was 2 staff members, and each of those staff members worked 20 hours. We still had to think about these questions. When I was with them, I realized, oh, they didn't have a budget. So I was asking these same questions to the executive director and saying, okay, we're going to make a budget together. What buckets? And I started talking about buckets, like what buckets / what programs do you have in your organization? Do you need to divide them up? Do those people need to know what their budget is, or do you just share it with them? So like thinking about who needs to know what info, I was definitely like asking those types of questions to get an idea of like, okay, do we want just one spreadsheet, or does it actually need to be 3 spreadsheets for the programs person, the fundraising person, ops person? Like I was trying to get that information. And then I also was like, okay, does everyone need buy-in? Like, is everyone hesitant to even thinking about a budget and they actually just don't want to look at it? Like, what kind of work do I feel like I need to be doing for this team? And to the point of like the last presentation I set up, how am I going to share this information out to the team? Are they already on board with spreadsheets? They understand it, they get expense reports, or are they a little hesitant to even look at that and I need to actually start with a PowerPoint presentation? So thinking about that.
I would also say that 4 years ago, I don't really know if we like had segmented tasks as much. And this is part of the process that we've come to, and this had lived hand in hand with the budget, the growth of the organization. So even if you are a smaller organization at the moment, these are the things that you want to implement as you're growing.
Yes.
And not when you already get to a certain size, everyone's gotten used to working a certain way.
Oh my gosh.
And now you have to try to push it. I would also say these tools are good to develop smaller and then to grow out and evolve with your organization as you evolve, so that you always have these tools alongside you. But I do agree, it's a lot because of where we've gotten to at this point.
Yeah.
But it has evolved over time.
Yes.
Mhm. Okay, if people want to come on video, if you're comfortable, or you could just unmute yourself, we would love to hear like some of what people are thinking about as they are going through this activity and coming out of the. Let's see, we have Joy coming on video. Anybody else? You can talk in the chat if you feel more comfortable doing that. But if you do feel comfortable coming video, please do so. After this, the next portion is Q&A. So either way, we're turning it over to you all.
Yes.
Well, I was going to say I did the virtual group because I'm a TA. I'm not involved in any of this on a regular basis, but I thought that in the questions anyway, that the main difference to me seemed like the fundraisers you wouldn't want to overburden them with too many details of the daily operation budgets, and that you would just give them more overall amounts about the different groups of your company. So that they know what they're fundraising and how to share that information with people when they're approaching them for dollars. But they don't need to know all the that you bought Kleenex and whatever. I would say probably the program. I would think, coming from as a TA, I would think the programming team probably needs the most buy-in, and that maybe are coming from less of a financial background. Because they're busy with schedules and artists, and so that seemed to make sense. I thought the idea of the structure, the different workbooks made more sense, unless you're so small, like maybe with your example of a company that's only 2 people or 3 people, maybe you only need one big budget. But it seems like you would want to maybe have different people work on different like spreadsheets or
Yes.
and then your last question, I really don't know. I don't know.
Okay.
Yeah.
No, those were great answers, Joy. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
Amy.
Hey, I don't know if this is going to take us in the wrong direction, but when you asked what this made me think about, I'm working now with a number of smaller organizations where the pay is somewhat equitable among the staff. And I feel like having this kind of more communal budgeting process would force upper level executives at predominantly white organizations who are being paid 6 figures to have to justify their salaries where compared to like entry level staff who are making like $40,000. And I feel like that would probably scary for people, but is probably very healthy for a larger organization. So I feel like on some level, who you need buy-in from is the executive directors. Like you need from the higher level management to open it up to the fuller staff. And I find that to be a very interesting, challenging question.
Yeah. And
That's
you broke up a little then, but I think we heard you. And I think what's also interesting, I mean, there's a way that you could structure this with some more that information is hidden. You can. I'm even speaking as someone who worked at a larger organization once where they just gave us the template for our expenses,
Yes.
but we had no idea what the salaries were. You could do that, but to your point, Amy, that's also a choice that you're making.
Absolutely. I think what's really cool is going to Erika's point about customization. If you have a mission, if your organization has a mission to like walk the walk, one of the things that Erika says all the time that I tell anybody who will listen is that your budget is your moral document of your organization. And if you have a mission about equity, then this is the time to put your money where your mouth is and show people where your expenses are going and what your income is doing for each program that you have and why. And being able to justify that through the budget, I think is, like you just said, Amy, very, very healthy.
Mhm.
However, counterpoint, maybe you're walking into an organization that already has a structure of inequitable pay, and being able to notice that on the high level as somebody who is privy to those salary discrepancies, knowing when you can and how you should share that out in a transparent way is it's also helpful to like see with this budget structure, oh, okay, not yet, because I want to fix some things on the back end. Let's raise the pay here before I share this out. But knowing that this kind of structure can move with your organization as you get to be more equitable is also helpful too.
Mhm.
I appreciate that point of view a
Yeah,
lot. Thank
thank
you,
you.
Amy.
Anybody else want to share some of their thoughts or findings or anything around this particular activity? Okay, in the chat, within our small theater, the Board of Trustees, I'm a trustee, overlooks one budget mainly for programming, but of course fundraising is part of the budget. Yes, and we didn't get into too much detail about this, but in our setup, one of the things that we do show people is that all the revenue that's related, especially contributed revenue that's related to their program, it gets imported into their budget as well.
Yes.
So that is also transparent to the team that, hey, like this is what's been fundraised around your budget. This is like the tuition revenue that's related to your budget. And if there's anything that we need to explain around how the money is then allocated, then that then gives us the tool and the reminder to have that conversation with people. So I think that's a great point, Elizabeth, about how, like, yeah, if you're at a small theater, like, have it be one budget.
Yes.
But then, like, what is the information that you're showing in that one budget?
Absolutely.
Mhm.
And I think what's also interesting that Erika said about allocations is that last year, Bloomingdale's budget did have all allocations, all different types of income. Like Joy, you said Kleenex. If somebody spent like $600 on Kleenex for the year, that got allocated into every section of the budget because every program is going to touch Kleenex at some point if they're walking through the door. So we shared that out with our staff. They did not want to see that. They said that is too much information. I only want to know what I can spend on my budget. And then we shifted to that. That was a huge surprise to me. I thought that everyone wanted to know what functional allocations were, and I tried to be as transparent as possible. And it's interesting to get the feedback from the staff to hear, don't need that kind of transparency, just need to know these 6 items.
Mhm. Great. So we're gonna shift to our final portion. I think we can just do it like this.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. You could stop sharing too. but-
Yeah. I could do real quick though. Hold on. If you want
Yes.
our contact information, you know, I have it. Take a picture. Here we are. But we are gonna do questions before we go.
And just in case for folks who may not be able to see or just need us to verbalize what our email addresses are. Again, my name is Kayla Jackmon. My email address is KJACKMON@BSMNY. That's Bloomingdale School of Music, New York, BSMNY.org. And Erika's typing that on the chat. Erika's name is Erika Atkins with a K, and her email is her first initial and last name Atkins@bsmny.org. Please
Great.
email us. Would love your questions.
Yeah. Does anybody have any question for us now?
Or if you have anything that you'd like to review, or you're like, oh, I wish you kind of went more in depth on this part, I would love to hear that as well.
It looked like we answered all the questions.
Yeah, you guys learned everything.
Like we solved everything about budgeting.
we solved nonprofit finance.
Oh, great.
Please put that in your review of our presentation.
Yes, thank you,
so
Kinsey.
much.
Thank you. We appreciate that. Oh, here, great.
Yes. Okay. Oh, lovely. Okay. Well, I'll read Lisa's.
Okay.
Oh, great. Lisa says, are you importing and exporting data from QuickBooks or a similar program to your spreadsheets? And how are you facilitating updating the data? Lisa, you are a finance person, I could tell. Okay, love this question. We are using QuickBooks Online for our bookkeeping. And because QuickBooks Online is not the most beautiful thing to look at, again, we're trying to be collaborative. I do take that information, I run expense reports and import reports by program and input that directly into the budget. With that said, this question has been asked before in other presentations. I want to be completely transparent. The trade-off to having a collaborative budget model is that it does take more time to update the budget. So for me, it takes me 2 3-hour chunks now to update our budget month by month. So I usually do that over the course of 2 days, one afternoon, the next morning. And when I said that the first time at the Nonprofit New York conference, like all of the admin folks that were in finance were like, no, I just want to send out an expense report and be done. And I'm like, yes, but this is kind of why we are choosing to do that trade-off, is that it does take more time to inform people in a very curated way. I am very open to a way to make this more automated, and I'm looking into that as we speak, considering that this year is finding new tools to be able to share out the budget more efficiently. I am looking on YouTube right now, and I see somebody else asking about import range. I'm on YouTube learning new formulas, trying to figure out if there's a way for less error. So I think I am answering that question for you, Lisa. Great, thank you. Love it's more accessible to the team at large. Would love, love, love more automation. Great, Erika.
Great. Can you talk a little bit about mid-season changes when funding doesn't come through? That seemed to be an issue for many people. So what we do during the year when funding doesn't come through is the way that the spreadsheet is built, you know how Kayla was showing you the month by month by month. There's one or two things we might do. If it hasn't come through yet, we kind of move it along to the next month, the next month, the next month, because then we'll see it on the cash flow and we'll see on that side, well, yeah, getting $50,000, not getting it has like drastically changed our cash flow. And then it lets us kind of be ahead of, okay, well, what does that mean? Do we have money in our savings account? Like, what can we do? What resources do we have? Is there a conversation we need to have with the board? Because we can see we're looking like a couple months ahead and things aren't coming in. Alternatively, you delete it. And now you go back to your main budget and you see what your deficit is now. And then because we go through the way that we budget, a lot of it is attached to actual expenses. Then we go through and start having conversations with people. Hey, this was always a maybe getting through on the budget. Can we talk about that? Where have you saved money? What's happening? Because everything is lined out, it gives them more of an ability to say, oh, I guess I don't need that second master class. So I guess this is happening, et cetera, because we're able to first then see that sometimes you clear out a piece of funding, but then maybe something else came in higher, and then you look at the whole budget and you're like, okay, not so bad.
Yep.
Or let's write the deficit because we see the cash flow. We're like, cash flow is okay for 2 more months. Let's just write the deficit for another month and see what happens with this. It gives us better information or tool to be able to do it. But yeah, either you move it along or you delete it. And then the way that the details are structured out allows you to make better decisions about what you're cutting. So instead of saying, let's just cut $5,000, you're like, let's cut this class, these materials, et cetera, et cetera.
Here's what I'll also say, going back to the fact that this is a collaborative budget model. Erika usually knows first, crap, we're not getting that funding. That funder pulled through. Now she sees there's a $30,000 budget. But because she's hired me as the director of finance and I'm talking to every coordinator and we're collaborating, I can then tell Erika almost immediately, oh, well, A4TY actually doesn't have this going on, or we were holding on to this. And she doesn't have to be the one person that has all these answers. She now has me, and I have our director of programming who has all those people. Like, because there's a collaboration happening, those decisions can be happening much faster, and it's a little bit more nimble.
Yeah.
Going back to somebody else who wanted that at the beginning of this session. They were hoping to get that from
And
this.
I think even in a smaller organization, if you've built that shared structure, then like, let's say it's just you and a program person and an ops person, you could say, oh, we didn't get that funding. And that programming person who also understands the budget, the two of you could immediately look at and be like, okay, like they could do what Kayla like just did. I have a larger leadership team, which is partially why Kayla is here, because there was a lot to manage those people on my own. But I think even with a smaller team, you would be able to get that information quickly. I do want to, there's 2 more questions.
Great.
Okay, and we have 4 minutes.
So Amy said she's got that. Michelle, can you talk a little bit about import range? I'm going to type it right here because I can talk about this for hours, but I can't. So that's what you should put into Google, equals import range parentheses. Find some YouTube videos. I promise you, this is a freaking game changer. But high level, what this does is it allows you to take information from one spreadsheet, share that into a completely different spreadsheet, and that spreadsheet can't edit anything. So in terms of transparency, you're allowing people to see the numbers, but they don't have access to change it. So in terms of like approval flows or separation of duties, if somebody just has the ability to view something, you're still being transparent without having somebody edit something or change something.
Cool.
Does it
Yeah,
work with
we
Google
do it
Sheets?
with Google Sheets. Yeah. Mhm.
All we use is Google Sheets. We use the Google Suite. So it's a life changer in that. And I would say, we have 27 budgets. So I have 27 import ranges working for foundations and corporate and government. Like our whole budget is built on import range.
We have a lot of programs.
Yes.
Yeah, that's it.
That's it?
Yeah.
Okay, great. Wow. Yes, check it out, Michelle. Check it out. It's my favorite thing in the world.
Call me Michelle. We'll talk about it. It's good.
Okay, we have got 2 minutes. Other things that if you care about spreadsheets as much as I do, and you like solving puzzles, here's some other things that I am currently working on for our budget. XLOOKUP. This is a game changer as well. Do you have data, a bunch of data that you're manually trying to sort through and figure out how much money does this person have if they worked on this project? XLOOKUP is your buddy. Bye, Michelle. What's another one? Some ifs,
Yeah, that's
y'all.
not on everyone. You
Oh,
can
it's
send that to
I'm only doing it to that person?
Yeah, I got it. Keep going.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Some ifs. Add the sum of 2 different things or 6 different things depending on certain criteria. Look that one up on YouTube as well.
Okay, great. That's it for today. Thank you all. We, as you can tell, love talking about budget. And we hope this has been great. Kinsey, I turn it over to you for your closing.
Thank you.
Y'all, this was so great. Thank you so much for solving finance. As you said, just A+, great job. No, but really, like, I know that as folks on the call know, this can be really complicated and stressful, but I feel like you made so many things really accessible. I really appreciate all the resources and just sort of walking people through things. This was excellent. A really great note to end on with the virtual face-to-face. So folks, thank you so much for joining us. Really hope that you are going to be joining us in person next week if you can. I just put the link to the Face2Face website in the chat. If you haven't registered, it's not too late. Registration is open until Monday, April 22nd at 7 p.m. So join us if you can. And otherwise, just Erika and Kayla, thank you so much for being here. Really appreciate y'all. Thank you to our incredible ASL interpreters, Talon, who is on screen right now, and Jasmine as well, who have been with us throughout the virtual conference. They've been lovely, and we're so grateful to them too. So everyone have a wonderful rest of your evening, and we hope to see you in person next week. Bye, y'all.
Bye.
Bye.